Welcome to Anonymous Automotive. This is another episode of Must Drive where I review a vehicle after a few days of driving. Today we're reviewing the Land Rover Defender. This spec is the X-Dynamic HSE 110. Competitor of this vehicle, if you're looking for a utilitarian off-roader, it'd be the Ineos Grenadier or the Toyota Land Cruiser. However, more reasonably you'd be looking at competitors of the BMW X5, the Audi Q7 or even the Volvo XC90 if it's a mix between urban use and mild off-road usage. Now this vehicle is currently on sale in 6 variants. You have the 90-inch shorter wheelbase, which comes in 5 or 6 seats, 3 doors. You have this 110 wheelbase, which again is 5 door, but it comes in 5, 6 or 7 seats, and this is the 7-seat version, so it has 2 occasional seats in the back. You have the newer 130 wheelbase, which again comes in 5, 7 or 8 seats, and it's proper 2 seats on the 3rd row. You also have a 90 and a 110 hardtop commercial edition, which comes in 2 or 3 seats, and the new one is the Octa, which is based on the 110, but it's a completely different configuration and powertrain, and we'll discuss that later on. And with the variation of sizes, you get a number of trim options. So you get the Defender S, you get the Defender X-Dynamic SE, you get the X-Dynamic HSE, which is this one, and you also get the Defender X, which is kind of top of the range before you get to the Octa. And each variation comes with a number of colours, number of wheel choices, and a number of optional extra packs, which make it very personalised to suit each customer's own needs. Now this car is almost 5 years old, however, it's aged and dated really well. It's got a bold retro design which is still very desirable, but let's take a look at the exterior in a bit more detail. So starting with the front, we've got this checkered tread plate design here, which is kind of really functional if you do need to climb up to the top, but I think it's more for design, but it looks cool. You do get a bonnet stripe on some of the special edition versions, contrasting to the normal paint colour. This is just a standard Carpathian grey. Moving down, we've got these signature headlights, matrix on this edition with DRLs. It has a kind of circular design, taking homage from the original Defender. Got black signage here. Moving down, you've got colour-coded body panels. Now, on every spec above the S, it's body coloured. However, on the S, this is kind of grey, and it's probably the only thing I don't like about the S, so I'd look to upgrade just for that reason. Now, looking at the front of the vehicle, you'll notice the front wheel is really close to the front of the vehicle. This gives you one of the best-in-class approach angles. Now, the S version comes with 19-inch wheels. The X-Dynamic SE and HSE on the configurator is 20-inch. Now, this has 22-inch wheels, so I presume they're the optional upgrade. But there's cool style, black gloss, gives you a very imposing stance. I quite like it. Moving on to the side, we've got this side vent here, purely for aesthetics. Folding wing mirrors. This has got the 360 camera, which we'll come on to as we go inside the vehicle. And we've got traditional handles with easy access on all the doors. And if your car has door handles, be sure to subscribe. And moving on to the back, we've got quite unique rear lights here. I wasn't too keen on them when this car came out, but they've grown on me. The rear is vertical. We've got the traditional rear wheel on the back, which the car wash missed earlier. You can get a cover for this as an optional extra. And we have visible tow hooks, which add to the rugged look. And this car doesn't have the pannier and the ladder, but a lot of people take that option. It has got some function, but it just makes the car look quite cool, and a lot of Defenders I've seen on the road take that option. So let's jump in and look at the interior. Now you've got 5 spacious seats, a huge amount of headroom, quite a utilitarian, rugged interior. You've got grab handles here, grab handles here. The seats are not massively sporty. They're quite kind of standard and boxy looking, but they are really, really comfortable. We've got soft leather on the door over here. We've got soft leather on the dash and this grab handle. kind of got semi-soft leather here. It's quite good quality. And then looking at the headlining, got kind of vinyl fabric, again fairly premium. We've got an 11.4 inch display here and a digital instrument cluster. Now Land Rover tried to stick to their ethos a little bit with being utilitarian, and I really like these rugged visible torque bolts here and body coloured exposed metal here. As this is grey, it's not very contrastive, but if you have a lighter colour or a different colour, you'll see that this is painted metalwork. I really like it, looks quite cool. And if you forget what vehicle you're driving, it's written Defender at the front here. We do have a little bit of scratchy plastic, but it's really low down here and at the bottom of the doors. We have a really large steering wheel, again quite traditional. We've got some audio functions on the left hand side and some ADAS functions on the right hand side. And we have quite large sun visors here, LED lighting and a money clip. Now taking a look at the rear, we've got 3 spacious seats, Isofix on the outers, and we've got a fairly flat floor to give you a reasonable amount of legroom. And sitting in the rear here, we have loads of headroom, a reasonable amount of legroom. Now this is the optional 7-seat version, which means that this second row has recline, and these seats do slide forward and back. Now with this having the optional third row, which costs you an extra £2,000, you have to have the cabin purification, you have to have the air suspension, and it also gives you a third zone climate. So the whole package ends up costing you £3,600. And in the rear we have fairly small cargo net. We have USB-C charging sockets down here, and in the middle of the second row we have a folding armrest with 2 reasonably sized cup holders. One thing I really like, and again taking homage from the original Defender, are these alpine lights here. So from the second row and third row you can look up at the sky and see the mountains, or more realistically the smog in the air, but it's cool. And on the rear doors, again we've got the exposed torque bolts, a fairly small storage pocket. It's enough for 1 small bottle of water. Now let's look at the tech in a bit more detail. So this infotainment system is called PIVI. When the vehicle came out in 2021, it had a 10-inch display kind of fitting between these 2 bars here. It then upgraded to this one, which is the 11.1 inch. If you order a vehicle now, the display comes right down to here and it's kind of 13.4 inches. But it's the same infotainment system in the background. At the time, it was probably best in class. It's still dated quite well. It's now a few years older, but it's got all of the relevant features that you want for a good driving experience. So looking at the home screen here, we've got 3 vertical columns, navigation on the left hand side, which then defaults as your entry into Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, phone in the middle, and media on the right. This is the default configuration, but you can configure this with your own widgets and personalize it as much as you want. This car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless as standard, and it's fairly responsive. Now, the previous infotainment system JLR did, the InControl Pro, had a number of issues and it was a big area of complaint. This PIVI system is much improved, and it's one of the bits that works well, so no one really talks about it, but I think that's a good thing. And on the right hand side here, we have media, where you can then select between DAB, FM, AM, or your other apps. When this vehicle was developed, they didn't have station logo for your stations, so there's a generic genre icon, and 5 years later it's still the same. It looks quite nice, they're nice icons, but most vehicles now do have station logo and album images integrated, so Land Rover are a few years dated there. So this car has the air purification pack, which tells you the interior air quality and the exterior air quality. It has a lot of purification and filters, and I think when this vehicle was released kind of mid-COVID, it was a feature that everybody looked at. I think it's still quite useful. Any health benefit is widely accepted and advantageous. And to demonstrate the Defender's off-road capability, we've got this menu here where when you're off-roading you can see the wheel articulation, you can lock the differentials and see a lot of useful information here on the monitor. And we have a good blend of soft keys and hard keys on this Defender, which I really like. So on this kind of left-hand segment here, we've got climate functions, we've got the ability to change the direction of the fans, we've got temperature control. This car has heated and cool seats. On the right hand side here, we've got kind of more vehicle functions off-road, so you can adjust the height, you can change the mode from normal road to off-road. We've got the gear selector here, which you can shift into sport. Overall, it's a very ergonomic design, and I really appreciate the fact that they've got hard keys for climate. We've got this digital instrument cluster, which is really configurable, so you can change the layout to have the traditional 2 dials. You can change it to 1 dial. You can change it to a map view, you can change it to an ADAS view, and then even when you've gone to your particular dial option, the central bit on here is still configurable, so you can change that to show media information, you can change it to show trip summary, 4x4 info, again ADAS functions, just a clock, you can have it empty, so really configurable. I like it. All versions of the Defender come with a Meridian audio system. In the S and the X-Dynamic HSE, you have a 400 watt 10 speaker system, and on this X-Dynamic HSE, we have a 700 watt 14 speaker system with a subwoofer. A traditional steering wheel setup, we've got a stalk for wiper controls on the right, lighting control on the left. We have kind of media controls and some shortcuts and a personalized button on the left hand side steering wheel here. They're physical buttons, not capacitive, which is good. And on the right hand side, we've got cruise control and other ADAS functions over here. So fairly traditional, but everything works well. And we have a really useful wireless phone charger here. Now, if you opt for the 6-seat version, which has a jumper seat in the middle, you kind of lose this whole section, and then you lose the ability to have a wireless phone charger. Now moving on to storage, we've got a really useful deep compartment over here. It's optional refrigerated, so this one doesn't have the refrigeration, but it's still a useful space. We've got 2 cup holders here, again with these spring-loaded constraints to hold your bottles. We've got a deep storage section here, and this quite clever sliding compartment which you can put things in and hide away when you're out of the vehicle. And down here we have a single USB-C charging port and a 12 volt cigar socket. And additional storage kind of on the dash, we've got storage here, storage here, storage here on this little shelf, and an additional USB-C charging socket. And we have a lockable, reasonably sized glove box here. We've got a reasonably sized door pocket on both front doors. You can fit a few bottles in here. It's not felt lined, but it's got this kind of rubber base to stop things from rattling around. So we've had a look at the exterior, interior, tech and storage. Let's jump in and see what it's like to drive. Okay, and we're off. So this is the D350, so it's a 3 litre diesel twin turbo. The D250 is also a diesel 3 litre twin turbo. This has 350 horsepower, the other one has 250 horsepower. It's an 8-speed automatic ZFK box. Now it pulls really well, and although it's a diesel, it's fairly quiet, and it has got a quite nice responsive sound when you accelerate quite rapidly. So it's not an old luggy diesel from many years ago. It's quite refined, and smooth. Now you will find on this car there is an overspeed alert, and it's quite aggressive. You can turn that off in the settings, but on the next drive cycle it defaults back to on. So if that's something that's going to annoy you, be prepared to press a couple of buttons each time you get into car to turn that off. 0 to 60 on this car is 6.1 seconds, and on the D350 it's 7.9 seconds. There is a couple of other engines available. So there is the plug-in hybrid, so it's a 2-litre petrol with a small electric motor, giving you around about 30 miles of electric range. Now it's not really there for performance, but if you are looking at this from a company car perspective, the benefit in kind tax on the plug-in hybrid is much lower. So that's probably the only kind of user that would go for that spec. There is also the P425 petrol, and then the new Octa, which we'll come on to when we're looking at the specs a bit later on. Now this car has the optional air suspension, with it being the 7-seat version. The air suspension is mandatory, and it does really help compared to the traditional coils. There is a little bit less roll, it's a bit more responsive, and overall it's a nice drive. It is a proper SUV. There's a distinctive step up when you get in the vehicle, and it is a bit bargy going around corners, but there is still a distinct connection between the steering wheel and the front wheels, which is good. So if the bings and bongs and all of the ADAS stuff that's set as default is annoying you, you can long press on this button here on the steering wheel. It brings you this menu here where you can change it from custom to high to low. You can put it onto low, but it does say here that resets to high when the vehicle is restarted. But it takes off the speed warning alert, it takes off the lane assistance, and then the forward collision alert goes from high to normal. Now this country road over here is fairly choppy. It's not the smoothest road, but the suspension on this car kind of eats those bumps quite well. There is a bit of a reaction just because the centre of gravity is so high on this car, so you do feel a bit of wobble, but it's similar to other vehicles in this class, and as I mentioned, the air suspension does help a little bit with that. Now as we come onto this country road, again the acceleration for this size of vehicle is pretty quick. 0 to 60 is kind of 6 seconds, 350 horsepower, but it's the torque here. It's got almost 700 newton meters of torque, so as soon as you put your foot down, you kind of get pulled back into your seat, and it's a nice feeling, a nice reaction, and a nice sound. There is a lot of soundproofing in this vehicle, so you don't get that much road noise. What you do get quite a bit of is wind noise, just because this vehicle is probably as anti-aerodynamic as you can get. It's pretty square, boxy, big planes, big windows, and you do hear a bit of a wind noise, especially kind of going over 60 and 70, but road noise is really good. Now visibility on this car is also pretty good. I think the driving position is almost perfect. The synchronization between the seat height, the pedals, the steering wheel is spot on. You're sitting quite high up, and although it's a large car, the visibility is great. So even going through narrow country roads or tight cities, you don't feel like you're gonna whack into something on a corner. The A-pillars are not the largest, but the windows are huge, so there's a lot of visibility. The only thing I would probably change is with the fifth wheel being stored on the boot and the rear headrest up, there isn't the greatest amount of visibility through the rear view mirror. However, you can get on some of the specs the digital camera option, and it's something that I would choose had I been given the choice, just because then the camera is mounted on top of the vehicle, so it takes out the blockage that you can get with the people at the back or with the headrest and with the spare wheel. On a few cars we've tested before, we've had the gear selection as a stock, and I much prefer having the gear selection here. it just feels a lot more natural, and you can shift it into sport, shift up and down manually if you prefer. And there is also a park button on here with an additional parking brake kind of down near your knee. Now, talking about the infotainment system here, this has got one of the most user-friendly UIs. It's simple. The infotainment controls are soft keys on the top, the HVAC controls are hard keys underneath. There's a clear distinction between what you're looking for at the top and what you're looking for at the bottom. I like the fact that it's got a home screen. A lot of vehicles seem to skip that, and you kind of go between different functions. You go between media and navigation, but personally I like a home screen that you can always jump back to and you can set and configure. And then on this home screen you've got media and you've got your other functions on there that you can choose. The radio itself, the reception is fantastic. On DAB it switches seamlessly between DAB and FM. When you lose reception, it jumps back. I did mention it's missing station logos, not a deal breaker. I'm pretty sure the next infotainment system that JLR work on, which I believe it's coming out in the electric Range Rover or electric Jaguar later this year, will have station logos. But overall it's a good infotainment system, it's responsive and doesn't have any alarming bugs. Also, this car is one of the first vehicles to be fitted with software over the air for multiple domains, not just infotainment system. So quite often when you're getting out of the vehicle, it'll say there's an infotainment or another domain software update available. It downloads automatically in the background, but it gives you the choice of when to install it, just because some of the updates you can't drive when the installation is happening. You press accept, you spend half an hour at the vehicle, and when you come back in, it's updated. So any bugs that they do find, they can react quite quickly. I think there's generally a quarterly update for feature enhancements and bug fixes, but they do have the ability to address issues as soon as they arrive, which is great. Now, this car has got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both wireless as standard. The native embedded navigation system is here, and when you're using the embedded navigation, you can get all of the navigation transferred onto the instrument cluster. This car doesn't transfer across any of the navigation from Apple CarPlay onto the cluster. It does have the ability to see the information, because when I was on this menu yesterday, it did have some of the turn-by-turn instructions on the home screen, but it doesn't show that onto the cluster. So if you want to see that on the cluster, you have to use the embedded navigation. One thing that doesn't work too well in this vehicle is the traffic sign recognition. So one of the GSR regulation guidelines a couple of years ago was that the vehicle must show the speed limit in the instrument cluster. OEMs do this by a combination of data from the navigation system or by using a forward-facing camera. And I found on this vehicle it's not always showing the correct speed. So we've just gone from a 50 to a 30 and it's updated correctly. However, on some of the ring roads around where I am, the speed limit is 40, and often it picks up 30 from one of the side streets. And especially with the overspeed warning being quite aggressive, it'll randomly beep thinking you're going 10 miles over the speed limit, whereas actually it's picked up the wrong speed limit. So that's something that can be improved either by changing the way they do it, or but just generally it's not the best experience, especially as that warning is so aggressive. One really cool feature on this car, and I'll show in a bit more detail when we've stopped, is the 360 camera system and the 3D-ness of it. But before we get there, one thing that's really cool on this car is the quality of the camera. We looked at the poor quality of the camera on the Renault Scenic a couple of weeks ago, but if you look at the quality on this one, it's absolutely fantastic. You can press on these markers here and it shows the vehicle in like a 3D view. You're going to swipe around. and I think that's really cool. Some of the views are probably not so functional, but earlier on I was in a car park. It's pretty tight exiting, and if I was to use this to show how far away from the curb I am, it really helps with these multi-story car parks. So let's take a look at the boot for storage. Now, one thing Land Rover have opted to continue with is putting the spare wheel on the back, which is fine. However, it's then a huge weight on the back and it doesn't allow the boot to open traditionally. So they've had to go for a side opening, which means that you need a lot more space in a car park when you're trying to get things in the back. Now, this car has a fabric boot cover, and what that means is when the third row seats are up and you need to take this off, you can fold this away and hide it. Now, this car has a flat boot floor, useful for lobbing things in. However, it is quite high, but they've got a useful feature here with this air suspension where you can lower it to a much more accessible height. And in the boot, we've got cargo nets on either side. We've got a 12-volt cigar socket here. We've got USB-C charging points and cup holders for the third row seats. And if you look at the door, we've also got some storage on the back of this boot door. Now, the website will tell you the boot capacity in litres or cubic meters, but what does that actually mean? So what we'll do is put in 2 large size suitcases, see if they fit, and then we'll take it a step further and see if you can fit 2 full sets of family size suitcases for a family holiday. So we can get 2 large size suitcases in side by side. However, there is a lot of room here, and actually you can fit these on the side instead, so you can actually get 3 cases in side by side without having to remove the shelf. But let's take these out, take the cover off, and see if you can fit both sets of 3 inside. So I've took out the cover. Let's put in the 2 large, 2 medium, 2 small, see if they all fit, and if so, how much room do we have left at the end. So as you can see, plenty of room. I haven't tried to stack these too cleverly, they've just gone straight in, but you can see there's still a lot of room on top, so you can put these flat, stack them more practically, and you still have a lot of room for other bags, small prams, rucksacks. So it's a really useful storage space, and so far it's the largest of any of the cars I've reviewed. Now, this boot door is quite heavy. However, one small benefit is that it's got soft close, so you don't need to slam it all the way closed. Nice. So as I mentioned, this car has the optional third row seating. In the 110 and the 130, you can have the third row. It's not the most practical, but let's take a look in a bit more detail. So to bring up the third row, it's a mechanical mechanism. You just pull back on here, it clicks into place, and then you pull up the headrest. Same on this side, and that's all it is to it. So let me go around, jump in, and see how practical it is. So to get into the third row, again, it's a mechanical movement. Pull on this lever here and slide this seat all the way forward, and as you can see straight away, there's a tiny gap here for your feet from the third row. So essentially, unless you're a very small child, this second row needs to move forward a little bit to compensate. So let me see if I can move that forward and how comfortable I can get in the back row. So I've climbed into the third row. I've had to move this seat halfway forward with the sliding mechanism. I can move it all the way forward and I'll have an acceptable amount of leg room. However, then I'll lose all of the space from this middle row. So I've moved it halfway. I can get my legs in, but I'm stuck here. I'm not comfortable at all. If I spread my legs really wide, I could probably manage, but then I've lost this seat as well. So I said this is only for kids in the third row. If you did want adults to be using the third row regularly, I'd definitely go for the 130 wheelbase. And before I put these third row seats back down, let's just check how useful this storage space is. with the third row up. So you can get a couple of trolley size cases in the back, but again, if you want to use this with the third row and for storage, you definitely have to go for the 130 option. And again, to fold down the third row, it's mechanical. You pull on this, headrest goes down, pull again, folds in. Same on this side. Very simple, very mechanical, but works well. And again, one question I'm often asked is, how practical is the middle seat on the middle row if you have Isofix child seats on either side? So what I'll do is I'll fit in two Isofix seats and I'll check if an adult can fit in between them and how much space I've got. This car's got Isofix on the outer rears. I've mentioned before you can get zips, you can get removable plastic and foldable plastic. This has got a kind of leather pouch to access it. Again, quite useful because it doesn't get lost, so I like it. Just to note, this car also has Isofix points on the passenger seat, so you've got 3 seats in where you can mount Isofix seats. So let's install Isofix seats on the outer rears, and then I'll climb in and see how much space I've got. So I've got those fitted. One thing to note is that I did need to recline the seats a little bit to get those to clip in, but let's jump in and see how much space I've got. Now I've climbed in the back. From all the cars I've tested so far, this is probably the widest. I've got a very comfortable amount of width on the hips and the legs, loads of leg room, but again, it's still the issue with shoulders and arms. If I sit all the way back, I'm like this, which is not comfortable, but if I lean a little bit forward, this is perfectly fine. So if I was going for a short distance, I could sit here. Otherwise, if you're a teenager who's slim, it's a reasonably sized middle seat for, medium or long-term distances. So it's one of the better ones in class. Not the best, but it's acceptable. The Land Rover Defender is currently available in 6 body types. We have the Defender 90 starting from £57,135. It's 3-door. We have the Defender 110 starting from £62,795. We also have the Defender 130 starting from £84,070. We have the Defender 90 hardtop commercial starting from £58,605. We have the Defender 110 hardtop commercial starting from £63,445, and we have the Defender Octa starting from £148,045. Looking specifically at the 110, we currently have 4 trim levels available with a further 2 special editions. We have the Defender S, which comes with 19-inch wheels, body coloured roof, LED headlights with signature DRL, 400-watt Meridian sound system, and 12-way heated seats which are semi-powered at the front. We have the SE X-Dynamic, which has 20-inch wheels, a black contrast roof, and 12-way heated and electric memory front seats. We have the X-Dynamic HSE, which has a sliding panoramic sunroof, matrix LED headlights, 700-watt Meridian sound system, 14-way heated and cooled electric memory front seats, and an electrically adjustable steering column. We have the Defender X, which has 22-inch wheels, Windsor leather and Cavrat seats, and a signature interior upgrade. And the special editions are called Trophy Edition, available in deep sand glow yellow or Keswick green. The engines available are the D350 diesel mild hybrid, 249 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7.9 seconds. The D350 diesel mild hybrid, 350 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. A petrol plug-in electric hybrid, 300 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds. with an electric range of 31.1 miles. The P425 petrol V8. This is a 5 litre supercharged, 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, 425 horsepower. And we have the P635, so 635 horsepower petrol V8. This is a twin turbo 4.4 V8, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. This is only available on the Defender Octa, and the Defender Octa has 22-inch wheels, semi-aniline leather, and for an extra £10,000 you can have the Defender Octa Black, which has a Narvik black exterior paint, 20-inch wheels. So on this spec, which is the 110 X-Dynamic HSE, the solid free colour is Fuji white. Also available is Santorini black, Borrasco grey, Gondwana stone, Tasman blue, Woolstone green, and this car is a Carpathian grey, which is a premium metallic £1,800 extra. The roof is available in black, white or body colour. There are a selection of 19, 20 and 22-inch wheels. There is an option of all-terrain tyres. There's an option of a body-coloured spare wheel cover. This 110 version is available as standard with 5 seats, optional 6 seats, which is a jump seat at the front, or like this vehicle, 5+2, which includes the third row. The interior trims available are ebony resist seats with ebony interior, khaki and ebony resist seats with ebony interior, light cloud lunar resist seats with light cloud lunar interior, ebony Windsor leather seats with ebony interior, caraway Windsor leather seats with caraway ebony interior, light cloud perforated Windsor leather seats with light cloud interior, ebony Windsor leather and Cavrat seats with ebony interior, caraway ebony Windsor leather and Cavrat seats with caraway ebony interior, and light cloud lunar ultra fabric seats with light cloud and lunar interior. The cross car beam is available in dark grey powder coat finish, metallic grey powder coat finish, or light cloud powder coat finish. There's an ebony Maurice headlining, ebony suede cloth headlining, light cloud suede cloth headlining, and light cloud headlining. There's air suspension packs, towing packs, family comfort pack, off-road pack, advanced off-road pack, roof rails, signature graphics, heads-up display, side steps, side-mounted panniers, side-mounted roof ladders, and expedition roof rack, all available as optional extras. There are also numerous other exterior accessories, exterior protection, carrying accessories, interior accessories, and winch accessories. If you opt for the Octa Black and pick every available accessory and option, it comes to an eye-watering £196,258. So we've had 5 years with the Land Rover Discovery now. It's not changed much, and the new model isn't on the horizon yet. However, it's a car that's dated really well. It's spacious, it's semi-luxurious. They've kept a reasonable distance away from the premiumness of the Range Rover Sport and the Range Rover, but it's super functional. There are a couple of features or functions which I'd definitely take when ordering this car. Number one, it's quite high up, so I'd always take a side step, especially for kids getting in the vehicle. I'd also definitely choose the third row option, just because of that additional level of flexibility, and also it increases the desirability when you come to sell the vehicle. But it drives well, handles well, and it's super desirable. It looks great. I think it'll continue aging well. You see a lot on the road, but there's a good reason for that. It's a good car. Now, when this vehicle came out, it started about 45,000 and went up towards 100k. The RRP now for the cheapest one is over 50,000, and this car in this spec with the premium paint and the third row seats and a couple of other options, it's almost £85,000. Now that's a lot of money for the car, but it's holding its value well. The residuals are fairly well, so your monthly payment if you're getting it on a PCP or a lease are still fairly reasonable. So if you're in the market for this type of vehicle, there isn't that much to compare it to. So have a look at one, make your own decision. If you like this content or this type of content, please like, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching. This is Anonymous Automotive.